In this week's episode, we find out what made Chris say this.
Here's the next level. We mystery shopped you.
Great. How'd it go?
Folks, welcome back. Lotpop, powered by Lotpop. We are on episode 29. You are going to want to tune in from cradle to grave because we have a special guest today. And here's the best part. This special guest, they are not a client of Lotpop. They've been following us. We've had some conversations about them becoming a client, but you have tuned in. It is Lot Talk. It is powered by Lotpop. I'm Chris Keaton, one of the co-hosts, joined by the all great, the all famous Mr. John Anderson, Mr. Ronaldo Leonard, and we are going to have one hell of a time today with the subject at hand. Folks, you see the title. We're talking about volume. We're talking about gross. It's almost like the chicken and the egg in some cases, but we're going to get a lot of different opinions today. And especially, I love the opinion we're going to have from somebody that doesn't have any jaded thinking because they're one of our clients, because they're not. John, tell me, my brother. Now, I know you're fighting the head cold. So listeners, we call him Peepaw, but he really sounds like Peepaw now when y'all hear him. So, John, sorry, Peepaw, but
got to get that hot toddy working.
First of all, dealer principal, right? So for him to be willing to take his time to jump on with us, and when you reached out to him, he said, "Let's go." So I love that. I love that attitude, right? So very excited because a lot of we've had some great guests. But it's been a minute since we've had a guest on, and quite frankly, I love you two guys, but I get tired of listening to you guys occasionally. So, and I'm excited to hear, I'm excited to hear a different, which I'm sure he'll have, because he isn't one of our dealers, right? So he'll have a different opinion or a different mindset about some things. So, yeah, I'm really excited to get into it and see where this thing goes.
Naldo, what's your thoughts, brother?
I'm jacked up. Nathan brings to the table, some success. He does well on a few different levels, but I am really jacked up, pumped up, ready to rock and roll when it comes to looking, behind the curtain, see exactly what's going on, and having an opportunity to kind of point out some opportunities to improve. And then, also commend him on the things that he's doing well. So,
there's no doubt.
Up. Oh, yeah.
Listeners, viewers,
yep.
Buckle in, get your pen and paper ready. You want to stay on for the entirety of this because we're going to bring up the stage right now Mr. Nathan Shaver,
yes, sir.
Who is
yes, sir.
Managing Partner, General Manager, Shaver Automotive Group, out of the great state of California. As you guys know, Lotpop spans from West Coast, East Coast, border to border. As a matter of fact, we go on the north side of the border, and we make it all the way up into Canada. Heck, we're reaching folks all the way out in Europe. But today, we got Mr. Nathan Shaver. Brett, let's bring Mr. Shaver up on stage so we can pay this man and give him his flowers. Mr. Shaver, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You guys chat today. What's going on?
No, we appreciate, as John talked about. Okay, number one, you as a dealer principal, as a general manager, to take the time to get vulnerable and spend it with us, and not only to take the time, as I just announced. I mean, you're out on the West Coast. It is 7:20 in the morning there right now. So thank you for taking the time. And I hope you enjoy it because I already know we're going to enjoy it. I hope you enjoy this and give our listeners some things to take down as note, because I know in my time that I have spoken with you, I know you bring a lot to the table, and the industry needs to hear from great operators like yourself. That being said, John, why don't you fire us off here in that great debate, in that great topic of volume and gross. And let's see what Nate thinks. It's all you, John.
No, we were talking the other day, and it's always something we get into, and really with our dealer partners, right? And so, just for those that are watching or listening, right, the foundation of what we do is two major things, two pillars, right? Sell what you're stocking, and sell a high percentage, 65% or higher out of that first 30. So our feelings and our background and our data and as many dealers as we worked with tell us that when we're doing that kind of thing, we're leaning towards and creating both. But a lot of times I get into conversations, and especially on calls that I do with dealers and on demos, where I ask that question, right? What is more important to you? So I would ask that of Nathan this morning. Which one would you consider first if you had to narrow it down to one? And considering that, Nathan, considering the climate we're in right now, right, with the tariffs that pulled a lot of business forward and in March and April, right? We saw the spring selling season with our dealers go a little bit longer this year. It actually stretched into April. It's typically done around that middle of March, end of March time. And a lot of folks were concerned about the tariffs. So it's pulled a lot of folks forward. We should have another buying spike in July and August, but my feelings are that got robbed a little bit. So in this time where we've got lower shopper counts, some of the public concerns about what's going on out there, if you had to move your dealership in a certain direction, which way would you go? Would you focus on trying to create volume, or would you focus on, it's more important to me to make the money on each car that we sell?
It's a great debate. I think dealers across the country are talking about it right now. If I had to just, respond to your question from the gut, I'd say volume, right? One of the superpowers of the market that I'm in Los Angeles and Orange County as a metro market, it has the highest population of, an urban center across the country. I have 10 million people within a 120-mile drive. So I've had a lot of success early in my career by, pulling the levers of inventory, advertising, and sales headcounts to drive additional volume. My thesis in the sales department has always been, if I have the price and the right inventory, I can grow volume. And even getting super aggressive on price, I can make it up in F&I and I can make it up in reconditioning. I started at this point in Thousand Oaks in August. The climate's changed a lot over the last couple of years when we compare it to kind of, business over a decade. Interest rates are different. Acquisition is getting harder. And coming to Ventura County out of, which is a little bit north of LA and Orange County for those listening not in California, it's a different market. And I'm learning that I can't just, put a circle in a square peg. And it's every store has some unique characteristics, and there's more to running successful dealership than, just having super aggressive pricing, making sure we're good on lead conversion and turning cars quickly. So to answer your question, John, volume, but I think there's more to the story. Today I want both. And what really gets me amped up to talk to you guys is I've never been able to run a high volume, even a fast turning used car department, whether it sells 150 used cars, whether it sells 400 used cars. I've never been able to manage a used car department that has 0 cars over 90 days. And that question is kind of what, steered me to get the opportunity to meet Chris.
Okay, Nathan, let me ask you a couple questions if I can dig a little bit deeper. You said, it's a different market where you're at. Can you dig a little bit deeper on that and give me some feedback on what makes it different?
Sure. This dealership has been here for 42 years, and it has more of a loyal customer base than I've ever encountered. And spending a lot of time on the showroom floor and taking ups and just saying hello to customers and, working deals. I've really never worked in a dealership where a salesperson comes or a customer comes in asks for a manager, says they bought their last 6 cars from one person. Their kids buy their cars from one person. And, just logically looking at a car deal, assuming that people are driven to the dealership based off of pricing and merchandising alone. But there's more of a relationship element to making deals here. Customers at this dealership seem to be willing to invest more in the transaction, to be treated with respect, and value sold a personalized, combination of a car and secondary protection products that benefit their situation. They're more receptive. They want the red carpet. They want their time to be respected. And there's that translates into more gross opportunity. And there's less. That's an important part too. There's less people in Ventura County than LA.
That's a great situation to be in. Let me ask you a question. Does that, how many salespeople do you have on your floor?
I have 11 today. Over the last 9 months, I've been hovering between 11 and 13.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, so this dealership was selling 50 used cars when I got here, and I've gotten it up to 65 to 80. Our best month was August, and we cracked 85. And I'm chasing 100. There's a Toyota dealership down the street. I looked at the 3 biggest used car departments in Ventura County. They're all doing 150 plus. I'm like, why not us? You look at their pricing, merchandising strategies, and we could do the same thing. Used cars are really not that unique unless there's an OEM CPOV program. Why can't I sell 150 used cars? So, I've grown inventory, I've grown my advertising spend, and I've grown my sales headcount twice, and not gotten the results that I've been used to earlier in my career. And then shade and spackle a little bit, pull back, get really tight on all the key metrics, get confident again, and then invest to get the growth. It's been harder this time around than my last couple stores.
You have 11 salespeople. Is it a split floor? Do you have new and used, or they work both?
They work both.
And you told me that your used car department right now is around 40 to 50 units a month. Did you say?
We did 63 last month.
63. Okay.
We average 65.
What about new cars? What do you guys average there a month?
50, 60.
Well, I'm sorry, 50?
50, 60.
50, 60, so 120 a month. Okay. Because of what you explained to me earlier and the nature of your clientele and their, which is excellent, by the way, man, I would love to be at a dealership that you had that longevity and that bloodline that people come in and have bought 5, 6, 7 cars, right? Do you find that with the 11 salespeople, and you mentioned, I think you alluded to that, it takes a little bit of time with these customers because they want that red carpet treatment. Do you find that with 11 salespeople that cuts into the time a little bit because they're maybe spending a little bit longer time frame with those individual customers, or no?
No, I think we do okay when the customers are here. This dealership's always had a lot culture, where they focus really on ups and customers that choose to visit us on the weekends. So I really wanted to enhance our CRM capacity and make sure that everyone was really fluent on the phones and driving additional traffic to the dealership through appointments. But now it's kind of overcorrected, where now maybe the guys have their head down on the computer a little bit too much. And the sales managers or me walking the property are finding customers first too often. I feel like that's the hole in my game right now.
A couple more questions, Ronaldo and Chris, and I'll let you guys take it. Do you have, what's your, for your staffing, are photos handled in-house for your merchandising, or do you have a company that does that for you?
Photos in-house.
Photos in-house. And if I'm a customer and I'm on your showroom floor, and I've agreed on the price of the car, tell me what the process looks like then. Now I want to know, what financing is available, what back end products do you have? Is that something that you stop there and they go into a separate office? Is it A to Z on your floor? Does it happen out at the sales desk what does that process look like once that customer says, yeah, I like the price we're at, now I want to know about the financing?
My salespeople are not masters of the game. I focus heavily on training, but really my expectation for my salespeople is customer satisfaction and scheduling appointments. So I want our sales team to be very fluent at getting customers in the door and making sure that their customers feel like they have a champion, someone advocating for their behalf. So, they get them in the door, they show them the car, they have good product knowledge, they go through the test drive. They can handle putting together a proposal. But from there, really, I bring in the high horsepower managers that put together the deal. The deal's negotiated. We include banks, and if everything goes right, then they go to finance. The salesperson.
And how many sales managers do you have, Nathan?
3.
Okay. All right. That gives me a good understanding of what's happened. So your sales managers handle the negotiation and working with the customer from the desk to desk on the floor, and then once all that's agreed on, now do they get approval at the bank, the sales manager, before it goes back to F&I? F&I just basically papers that deal?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Fire away, Naldo.
Yeah. Well, let me applaud you. Not very often do I have an opportunity to speak with dealers that get the experiential aspect of driving your business, rolling out that red carpet, making those prospective clients feel special, and also striving to have that repeat business. That's not common in today's marketplace. So, congratulations on that. The questions that I have, so you mentioned that you stress the salesperson's ability to work the phone and drive the appointment. Do you have anything else in place outside of what they're capable of doing to kind of drive the results that you want to see with mining those prospects and getting them to the store? Are you using a BDC? Are you using anything AI related?
I'm experimenting with AI. I think there's a bright future with AI. I've deployed it on the service drive and actually took a step backwards after 4 months, went back to traditional, service reception to schedule appointments. But that's a whole nother conversation. So no, not in the sales department, but I'm excited about it. I think there's a future there, maybe in the 2-year horizon.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a BDC. I think my entire showroom floor is a BDC. So they're all very disciplined and proficient at working the CRM.
Mm-hmm. What's the average age of that sales staff, as far as experience in the business and at your store?
Great question. Under 2 years.
Okay, the entire 11 that you have. No old timers. Pardon me.
There's a few there,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few, but in terms of the profile that we look for sales guys, and our sales team is ideally people who've never been in the business before, people who are high energy, like you guys, people who are charismatic, people
Love
who strive to satisfy their customers. You can't teach personality, but you can teach skills. Right. And I found that when you bring in senior sales associates, they have their playbook. They've seen different dealerships and different ways of doing business, and might not be as receptive to the way that we do things here. So sometimes when there's a clean slate and they only know the way that we want to do things, it's easier to enforce
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. And I want to tip my cap to you again, because I'm very familiar with the area. And so I know, from Burbank all the way out to Santa Barbara along that corridor, I mean, there's you got some tough competition there, but you are, setting yourself apart. We'll bring a couple of things to the table that hopefully you'll be able to improve on what you're getting. And you mentioned that what was it, 60 to 70 was that number, what you're doing in used cars. What are you keeping generally in stock on average?
Right now we have 95. In Q4, I was coming off a really strong August. I got ahead of myself. I stocked up to 120 to try to chase 100. You know, I know you guys strive for 30 days as a best practice, and I've never seen it done in my network of operators or stores that I've been part of in dealerships that sell over 100 used cars. So I'm hard stop at 45. You know, I usually have 35, 38 days, 40 days of inventory. But, you know, I wanted to hit the gas. I wanted to grow fast. So in Q4, coming off strong August, I stock up to 120, got ahead of myself, you know, so just stopped buying, dropped back down to kind of the 90, 95. And that's where we've been hovering since.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. And then what is your average sold days with the inventory units that you sold last month? Average days in inventory?
40 days. Yeah.
40 days.
It's an estimate. You know, I could check the exact figure, but I think over 3 months, it's probably around 40 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then on average, how long does it take you to get those vehicles to the marketplace, your trade-ins that you should have there on the lot, you know, relatively soon?
That's something we're really good at. Something you know, I think the team does very well. Our time to line for May was 2.8 days. That's not our average. I think that was the best month we put up, but we strive for 3.5 days time to line.
Okay. All right.
What was it averaging before that?
Before I got here?
Yeah.
30 days.
I'm sorry.
30 days to get a vehicle online?
One of the first things that I attacked when I got here. Yeah, it was 30 days. And there were cars that were in inventory for 30 days plus that didn't have photos. There was an outsourced photography company involved. We have an offsite reconditioning lot that wasn't being supervised. So it was one of the things that I really wanted to crank into gear. And we have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, listeners and viewers, if you thought you were doing a bad job at 10 days, there you go. There's 30 days for you. Comment below if you're at better than 30 days. I got a gift I'll send you. So, yeah. Lord of mercy.
That kind of takes the words out of your mouth.
Send him a WTF book.
You know, it's a great example of this dealership just has staying power in this community. A lot of the best practices regarding merchandising weren't necessary for the organic repeat traffic that was coming to this dealership. And, you know, with my background in, you know, very competitive metro markets, there were easy ways to level up our used car department there. We attacked it fast.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Nathan, are you a Viato dealer?
I am.
So when you look at your home screen on Viato, on average, I know that it ebbs and flows, but on average, what does your used car inventory look like based on? Well, first of all, how do you have your buckets broken out? What do your buckets look like? 0 to 15, 0 to 30. How do you break them out?
14 days.
14 days, and then what does your percentage of dollars? Because you're a dealer, and we look at units and dollars. But obviously for you, managing that ROI is so important, right? So when you look at that percentage of dollars, how does that break down in your 0 to 30, 31 to 60, and 60 plus on an average?
I love that you brought up ROI, and I think it's a big part of the conversation that gets neglected, right? So this conversation about volume and gross, I think, in the sales department, when we manage the sales department, there might be an overemphasis on gross versus net. And 100%. By net, that's, you know, kind of a big influence on internally when we're debating, do we go for an extra 20 units or do we get tight and disciplined and try to, you know, optimize PVR with what we have? But to answer your question, I have a $3 million flooring line. I usually have less than $500,000 aged.
Okay.
60 plus.
And 60 plus. Okay. What about that middle bucket? Where do you typically set with that by percentage of your dollars? Is that, would you say
a third?
A third of it? Okay. All right.
You know, at this store, we're holding 2 to 4 points higher on our book than I would traditionally want to do for the first 14 days. There's a little bit more front end opportunity here. The average income per capita of the demographics here are higher, and customers are willing to pay a little bit more for unique special use cars. So we do hold up the price a little bit more than I'm used to on the first price bucket, which, has the implications for the cars getting into those middle bands.
Okay. Nathan, are you a believer in holding costs?
Of course.
Glad to hear it, my friend. What do you calculate it on a monthly basis? Do you know what your holding cost was last month?
Let's define holding costs, right? So we talk about it internally every month. It's part of when I'm reviewing my financial statements. Yes, I review the holding costs of my new and my used inventory. And what we're talking about internally with holding cost is the flooring per car, the advertising per car, and the policy or inventory maintenance per car. So I break down all of those and I look at them on a per car sold basis, and then I combine all of them, and that's how we talk about holding cost per car.
So you don't add your comp in there?
No, we don't. I have a separate conversation about comp.
Yeah, but you don't consider that as part of the cost of doing business in the overall?
Of course we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually include that component into the calculation for holding cost per day, per average.
Yeah. So how do you guys define it?
So I was going to give you, Nathan, I'll give you the calculation here. We look at so how we break it down, which is the way I learned from my mentor, Ed French, is total department vehicle expense. So your total used car department vehicle expense, your sales and finance comp, any delivery and policy expense, and then I'll bring you to a subtotal, and then take their department retail units sold and divide that by 30 days. And that'll give you that daily holding cost. So
I will calculate that and get back to you guys.
In your current state, though, I'll send you that calculator too, Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and for any listeners, viewers, if you would like it, just drop us a note. You go to lottalkpodcast.com, connect with John, Ronaldo, myself. Be happy to send it to you as well. But in your current state of how you're measuring holding cost, what is, if you don't mind sharing, what's your average holding cost right now?
It actually fluctuates more than I'm comfortable with. The difference of dividing, 45 units sold or 80 units sold can really cause some
Sure.
fluctuations there. But on average, it's $400.
Boy, you just know how to. There's not many folk that ever
Right.
leave me speechless. Okay.
Right.
There ain't many folk, Nathan, that ever leave me speechless. And you've done it twice now. Twice. Okay. You got this old boy from Oklahoma just scratching his head here. Okay.
But
it's okay though.
But this is, hey, Chris, this is, and Ronaldo and Nathan, I mean, this is an important part of the conversation, right? When you start talking about volume, when you start talking about volume and versus gross, right? Because Nathan hit it on the head, right? I don't know too many dealerships that don't focus on, because that's what we've always done in our industry, right? We talk about the gross, right? We talk about what we made per vehicle on the gross. We look at our average gross.
You can't cash a gross profit check.
Well, I was going to ask Nathan, I go, hey, when you write a check out to your vendors to pay for them, does that come out of your gross account or your net account?
Exactly.
So we, I think this is we found out a lot about Nathan's store and his operation, but I think we need to jump in here now. And this is a good jump off point, right? Because when we're talking about these two things, man, that holding cost is a big factor. The longer that car sits out there, two things happen. The longer it sits there, you're adding that. And we look at it. I've had dealers tell me before, because we've had this discussion then, excuse me, the next week, I was riding them about an age car, right? They've got this age car, and I keep bringing it up every week, and they're telling me, no, I don't want to do anything with it yet. We got some customers working on it, or it's a unique car. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to bring it up next week if it's still in inventory. Okay, they laugh. And then next week I get on with them, it's still in inventory. And then we start having that discussion. And then maybe 3 weeks later, they go, hey, we sold that car and we made – now, granted, this car might be 70 days old. And they go – and they're laughing at me going, hey, we sold that car, John, and we made $3,800 on it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Right? So I think this is a good jumping off point because we get so transfixed on gross. And when you start talking about this is where volume and gross work together, right? Because if I'm Nathan, we never asked you this question, and I know what your answer is going to be, but I got to ask you on our podcast, right? Do you agree that the faster you sell a car, the more money you retain on that car, the more your ROI is higher?
100%.
Right. So I think Chris and Ronaldo, this is a good jumping off point to get in with Nathan about some strategies, right? That because I've heard him say it 2 times now, right? I never have been able to get that complete volume, right? He's stocking more than he's selling, right? So just by the very nature of that, right? If we're stocking more than we sell, at the end of the month, what happens with those cars that are left over, right? They're aging a little bit more, right? And so I think identifying those cars that we need to take action on earlier, right? We dug around a little bit, Nathan, the other day when we were talking about when you agreed to come on. The first thing I did was I got on the back screen and started digging around a little bit about your store. And so we found some things that we're going to share with you. Chris has them on the back screen.
Yeah.
But guys, I think this is a good jumping off point here.
Love it.
It is. It's a big jump off point, but I've just got like 2 questions before we jump off on that. Okay.
What you got?
Yep. So in listeners and viewers, I mean, it may just sound like we're doing some Q&A here, but all of this it's going to come back full circle. Yep. And we're going to, with the things that Nathan shared, with the things that we have discovered, it's all going to lead back to that debate that has been in our industry for the 31 years I've been in. I'm a volume dealer. I'm a gross dealer. You're not going to do both at the same time. Well, guess what? Here at Lotpop, I mean, we do things so completely different, and we're going to look at you and tell you, yes, you can. You can be a volume and gross dealer at the same time, period, in the paragraph. We can prove it 1,000,000 times over with data from dealers that do it every single day, every single month, every single year. But that being said, just a couple more things to kind of level set. You talked about the tenure of your salespeople, and it's a little low, okay, which I don't disagree with. I love what your ideal profile for a salesperson to work for your stores. I love that. What does your investment look like? And I'm not talking dollars. I'm talking cadence, time, and continuation of the coaching and training you're doing with your team that is less than 2 years in the car business. What's that look like?
I train 1 hour a day with 2 salespeople Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. No exceptions.
Okay. Now, what about your 3, and I think you said high caliber sales management people? What's that training process look like for them?
My training with them?
Uh-huh.
They, when I'm staffing sales managers, I've tried to create a balanced strength and weaknesses between the 3 of them. So I have one manager who's I find to be very strong at protecting our SSI and our factory survey scores and our new car inventory management. He wants to get better at learning about advertising and about used cars. I have another manager who's extremely good at the CRM, but has some holes in his game about the new car inventory management piece. So, I don't spend one-on-one time with them, training them or developing them, but depending on where they're trying to get better, I let them shadow and participate in conversations operationally.
Okay. Now, salespeople, you said you have them focusing more on just that experience, which I love. I think that's great. Making sure that we're giving that red carpet treatment, making sure they're staying very focused on being that go-to person for the consumer public out there. But we all know that at some point in time, management has to get involved and delivering that payment or delivering that trade difference or delivering that overall price, having those conversations, about finance, having those conversations about back-end product. What does your TO process look like, and what is mandatory? What is a no exception period?
We're trying to bring the customers in early in the process. So right in the traditional steps of the sale, there's the meet and greet, and then there's the customer interview. We TO at the customer interview, so there's management involvement early. And because of the size of my dealership, the managers are able to kind of wrap their arms around everything going on pretty well. So we get them involved early. So they say hello, they know about why the customers are there, they confirm the appointments in the morning, they have good lot awareness. They're involved with most transactions before the customer goes on the test drive. And then, after the test drive, the salespeople do say, hey, if everything looks good today, are you interested in purchasing the car? They create a preliminary proposal, and then the manager jumps in and does the heavy lifting.
On average, how many ups a day do you get?
Are we including appointments or just lot ups?
Just people donning your doorway.
Half a dozen.
12 a day. So
half a dozen, six
a day.
Yeah.
Fresh ups.
That's the way we calculate it south of the Red River.
Yeah.
I know you brothers in Oklahoma have a problem with your gazentas, but that's 6 a day.
Yeah, my gazentas was off there. So 180 a month. 180 a month on average walking through your doors. Now, I'll ask the same question, but about your sales managers, about your ups in your digital dealership. How many ups are you getting? And how often are your sales managers TOing your digital dealership ups?
We do a good job with that. So right now we're getting about 1,000 leads a month. When I started, it was about 800. And I'm cutting advertising right now because by getting more leads, our closing ratio actually went down. We weren't getting more deals. But we have a process in-house called MLT. It stands for Manager Live Turn, where if there's two-way engagements between a customer that's not on the property and a sales rep, the sales rep always asks for the appointment. And if they're unable to schedule appointments, they turn the customer live to the manager. And then the manager tries to get the appointment.
Okay. Do your managers take time harvesting outside of an MLT?
If there's time. I'm constantly thinking through and debating about, do the managers have enough time to do everything that's expected of them? How many managers should I have? What's a priority? What's essential? What's required to grow? And what's nice to have? My managers juggle a lot of things on a daily basis. We're not perfect. There's definitely always room to improve in the CRM. But if we sell less than 5 cars a day, I think that the managers should be very involved in the CRM to drive additional business. And then if there's not a customer in the showroom, they should be trying to get customers in the showroom.
So last question is, when it comes to you've talked about, like from the beginning till now, you've talked about how you have a very strong loyalty factor. A lot of people that have, they come back all the time, they buy cars from you, send friends and family, etc. Did I understand that correctly? Because that's what it sounded like.
Yes, that's my impression of the dealership.
Sure. With that being said, and now here's where my directness comes in. Do you feel like you lean too heavy on that?
Yes, 100%. And that's why I wanted to, pump from out of markets through the CRM. That's why I focused on that, my first year here so heavily. But for whatever reason, the execution wasn't there. I wasn't able to get the lift that I anticipated or that I want. I wanted to hit the gas and go from 50 to 100 used cars. Looking at the market, I think that all of the necessary ingredients to sell 100 used cars out of this dealership are here, but I didn't get the boost. I've tried twice. And, both times on a quarter per quarter basis, you get the closing ratio up 12, 14%. your average units per salesperson is going up. And then, you take a calculated bet on spending more in advertising, hiring a couple additional salespeople, increasing inventory by 10, 20 units. And, both times I started to get an aging problem because I didn't get the boost in volume. And then you exhale, hit reset, and try it again. I'm on the tail end of trying that for the second time right now.
Do you think, and let me be a little bit more direct on the second part of that loyalty leading on it, do you think maybe sometimes because of that loyalty factor that you may look at some of your processes and say there's nothing wrong with our process, we got loyal customers and it's working with them?
Definitely not. And that's why I'm here today. I am definitely not opposed to getting in the mud, pointing out our flaws and trying to get better. We definitely have some areas of our sales process where we can get better. And that's what I prioritize in my training with the salespeople. And I look forward to hearing from you guys on additional things that might not be on my radar of helping us sell more used cars.
Well, let's jump off into it. You stock at 95, selling on average 65. You had the 1 month that you came out, you banged it out at 85. Now, I'm going to ask you two questions here. And if you don't want to share them, that's fine. I'll use some averages, maybe use some fictitious numbers. But your average front end and back end gross, what are those?
Front end 0, back end 2 Gs. And there's like a $500 range there.
Is that California doc fee? Aren't y'all like mandatory set at like $75 or something?
Yeah, it's 85.
85. I knew it was something crazy. Well, have you like heard from some dealers out of 20 groups and hear some of the crazy doc fees they have?
I have heard. I'm envious for sure. There's actually a bill being debated on in the Senate in California right now to increase the doc fee. And
go out there and get all the car guys together, get your picket signs up, let's get after it. We'll come join you. So, all right. So, Brett, do me a favor. Take and put on stage so viewers, you'll be able to see it. Listeners, we're going to go through a couple things here, and what we're going to go through is we're going to break down Nathan's dollars, his turn, and then we're going to look at some things that he could do right now to improve both his volume and his gross, and be able to do that simultaneously. Okay. So what we're seeing here is your average stock at 95, your average monthly retail used car sales at 65, 0 on the front end, 2 G's on the back, $85 doc fee at an 8.21 turn. Sound about right, Nate?
Yes.
All right. So, Nathan, what this comes down to is you're a $1.6 million used car department. Average age in inventory, 44 days. Now, I don't have to do the math on you take your 400 and those extra 14 days on each car. You already know what that math comes to. It's 5,600. But looking at it from that vantage point, now you made the decision that didn't turn out to be a good one. Hey, let me ramp my inventory up to 120. Then all of a sudden you saw your age going up, and we started finding some inefficiencies, found some challenges. It didn't help push you to where you needed to be at, or what your end goal is of selling what you stock, turning in that 30-day period. Because arguably, if we have a dealer in the Pacific Northwest takes over a store, they were stocking 75, 80 cars. John, you'll remember this dealer. They're stocking 75, 80 cars. Sales teams used to sell 75, 80 cars, and all of a sudden the guy bloats it all the way to 225, 250 cars, thinking that's going to help him sell more cars. And all the money he spent doing that, it gave him a little bit of a lift. That was it. But now today, he's having to pay for his sins from the past and get this all dialed in. What I would tell you, what we're going to show you on a couple things today, is pushing this needle with just a few things and eventually getting yourself to that 12 turn, which is going to put you at that 30-day that you're striving to be at.
Love it. Let's rock and roll.
Okay. Now, with that being said, let's just say, I mean, you're already at zero, but let's say you even gave up another nickel. Now you're going to be at $1,500 a car. Are you still okay with that?
I am. If it translates into selling more cars, I think front end can't. There's more to the story with front end gross, right? Like, what are you charging for labor in reconditioning? What are you approving or declining in reconditioning? What do the packs look like? So I think on a store to store basis with your audience, they have to look into their stores, calculations of cost that go into front end gross. But I'm all about aggressive pricing and selling cars quickly with a price lever.
Okay. We run this right here because for variable people listening on the call, and you're sitting there going, wait a minute, you're telling me that the guy even sheds another nickel on the front, goes into brackets, and instead of running 2 G's a copy, run 1,500 a copy, you're going to make more money. And I understand it from a variable side of it when you're a front end person that gets paid off the variable gross. Okay. But realistically, here's what ends up happening. You pick up another 15 grand a month in gross, but most importantly, you're moving yourself $200,000 a year in gross, and you reduce your average from 44 to 30, and now you just improved your net profit.
Chris, this is taking the inventory turn to 12 and dropping the front end gross a nickel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you drop your holding costs. There's less water in aged inventory, and you're managing your flooring better.
100%. 100%. And this is where a lot of dealers have the hard time wrapping their head around this.
But so
the beauty of this is it's math. 2 + 2 will always equal 4. It will never lie to you. People can, though.
Well, you guys deal with dealers across the country, helping them achieve this on a day-to-day basis. So you have more experience than I do with this. But in my experience on the ground, when I drop my inventory levels, there's less unique vehicles being posted online, which means less eyeballs, which means less leads. And I usually go backwards in volume. And then also a part of this equation I really want to, pick your guys' brain on is no matter how tight I try to get on discipline in these areas, there's still that handful of cars that still gets to aged inventory.
Hey, how about this one? And to your point, you're in a predominantly loyal community to your dealership. John, Ronaldo, myself, we know the area. It's relatively affluent in that area, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you talk about red carpet and value. Now, I'm not going to apologize for this because you asked for this.
Bring it on.
That being said, if you pulled into your dealership today and you sat there and pulled in the gates and you looked around and you got holes in the front line, cars on the apron, rows that look like a crooked snake, what would you do?
I'd fix it. It's not that hard to be really tight operationally with 100 used cars in inventory. Our front line, maybe the cars, you look at them lined up, they're not lined up all perfectly, or, maybe when the porter washed the cars that morning, there's some water spots in the car. Maybe we could do a better job, with the dust on some of the front line. But I think we do pretty good with photos and with lot management.
Okay. Now let me ask you the next question. It's easy to be able to do that when you pull in the gate every single day. And when you're standing there at the dealership, and you talked about earlier, there's times you and your managers are rolling around, and next thing you know, you find a customer up on the front line, and all your salespeople got their head down in their technology, right?
Yep. Yeah.
How often are you doing that in your digital dealership? Because you have 2 dealerships you're managing. your brick and mortar and your digital? And arguably, I will sit there and answer that and tell you not very often. Because if you did do it more often and you got an affluent community and you got loyal customers and you got 1,000 ups in your digital dealership, you would have come across this 19 model Chrysler 300S that I would arguably sit there and tell the world that is a unique vehicle, because one, they don't make the Chrysler 300 anymore, and which is dumb because it was an actually phenomenal vehicle. But when we look at this vehicle here, based upon doing a little bit of research, I think this car's been in stock for 95 days. Somewhere around.
We have a dozen cars 90 plus right now. So let's assume you're right.
So looking at this vehicle, that's the first impression you're giving the consumer. So for the listeners that are listening and not viewing this, what we're displaying on the screen here is a beautiful, or could be beautiful, 19 model Chrysler 300S, black rig, mobbed out windows, the black wheels. Good, like I said, it could be a good looking rig. But the very first thing that we're showing in an area of an affluent community with 10 million people around, and a car that I've seen do extremely well across the nation, the first thing that we're looking at is a car that looks like it ran through a mobile car wash of sandpaper. So, I mean, think about this, brother. Look at this for a minute. That's the first picture you're showing. And then we start getting inside here. I mean, this thing is, to me, it looks like the trade appraisal photos.
Go back one, Chris.
33 photos of this.
The calipers, or the inside of the wheel right there. I don't know which one it is, the inside of the wheel, but all that stuff. This is the small stuff, and you know, Nathan, I know you can see the notes I've been typing in. I don't want to interrupt Chris.
All right.
But I don't want to just delay things. It's just with everything, man. The things you're talking about are good operational things. What you've spelled out to us this morning is this guy's a great operator. What's frustrating me is what you're saying, because something's not adding up to me. Is with everything you've told us this morning, you should, in my opinion, you shouldn't have a problem in the world with the processes you have in place. You shouldn't have a problem in the world selling more than what you're stocking. So that's where for you, I'm frustrated, because I'm like, I love your salespeople. If I were running a dealership, that's exactly what I would do, because I want service-oriented salespeople, right? I want them to take care of my customers when they come in, right? So that's why I was typing notes for the guys, because I'm like, man, something's not adding up here. And I'll let Chris continue. I have two questions, because it just helps me. How long have your managers been there? How long have they been at the store?
I have one manager who's been here for 17 years. And
wow.
I have another manager who's been here for 4 years. And the third manager has been here for 60 days.
And you've owned the dealership how long now?
9 months.
Okay, so those two managers what you were talking about, having that mindset that we got people coming here regardless. That could be right. That could be an underlying mindset with two of your managers, right? Because they've been at the store before you got it, right? And now since you've had it, and again, I'm throwing things out here. And then two, can you tell me what your cost to market is on your inventory? Can you share that with me?
Yeah, I can. So there's a lot to unpack there. John, I have the same frustration, and that's why I'm coming to you guys. What I really like from an outside perspective, and why I follow your guys' content, I read your guys' books, I watch Jason's lives. So I think there's a meaningful component to what Lotpop brings to the table about looking at the leads per car and adding that to the conversation.
Right.
I definitely should be selling more used cars.
Yes.
And
there's no doubt in my mind.
But, you know, when on the grander scheme of things, you know, the priority for my business right now is fixed absorption. I think I can get another $250,000 fixed gross. And when I look at capital allocation, because I've risked $250,000 on used car inventory that depreciates, and then the consequence ends up being write-downs or wholesale loss, you know, I'm feeling a little bit more conservative of placing an aggressive bet a third time. You know,
No, I get it.
Chris,
I get it.
and then getting into Chris, what you talked about with photos, I've done the 360s. I've invested more money into higher quality photos. I know that some of my photos are not perfect, but you know, the KPI for me on merchandising is your SRP to VDP conversion ratio. And we do above market. You know, when I talk to my Auto Trader rep, my Car Gurus rep, my Cars.com rep, we're performing in terms of our conversion off the listing platforms to our website, top 10% of dealers. So, you know, when I look at holding cost and how much I would have to invest in higher quality photos versus letting my porters use a Rebel Canon and not having an additional cost, I have at this time chosen to you know, have some of these limitations in my photo process. Now, you know, a best practice that we definitely could do better, and I'm sure you guys would agree on, is once a week touching all of our aged inventory physically, but also digitally, and saying, hey, why hasn't this car sold? Wrong?
Absolutely.
Do to get this car gone? And, you know, just completely being frank, done it in the past, not doing it now. And maybe I would have seen this earlier, Chris, and I could have fixed a couple photos on this car if we were doing a better job of that.
And Nate, listen, brother,
Yeah,
I wouldn't in any way, shape, or form, in no way, shape, or form, would I argue with you keeping it in-house, that expense. I don't need some fancy photo, you know, background. I don't need a fancy this or it. Listen, I think they're great. But when you're sitting there in the position you're at today, not selling what you're stocking, if I'm going to measure where I'm going to spend dollars to improve my business, it wouldn't be with one of those right now. All I'm telling you on this vehicle that's been there for 90 plus days, forget the type of photos. Okay. Forget a photo background, forget spending money on a camera, you know, a really nice camera. This is all I'm talking about. Clean the car.
Yeah.
The car isn't detailed.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And the training the training you're doing with your sales staff, I mean, couldn't praise you enough for that. But these people that are taking these photos, that are broadcasting your dealership 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, also need that type of attention and that type of management and training.
Yes.
Because if I remember correctly, is when we look at this particular vehicle, you look at that license plate there. Don't we have a potentially illegal situation with previous owner's license plate on that vehicle being broadcast online?
That's a good consideration. That's not something that we're currently talking about with merchandising.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but you talk about that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ronaldo. Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to finish up, and John, you can have it after this. If we're battling to keep that inventory number down, or the number of aged units that we have, I mean, this has got to be an exercise that I go through. Well, first day one when we post it online, but then as that vehicle ages, I'd be really interested to find out what the SRP and VDP conversion on this vehicle would be. And if you're tracking that from the day that you put the vehicle online, as it continues to age, to see if those SRPs and VDPs are declining or increasing as we go along.
We do. You know, I like profit time this dealership's not currently on profit time. I think that whether or not you use profit time, if you're a Viato customer, is part of, you know, the way that you handle pricing and aging and ROI. But using traditional Viato at this dealership right now, we do on a car per car basis look at the SRP to VDP conversion when we're factoring in the pricing.
So talking about that SRP to VDP though, okay? Talk about that SRP to VDP for a minute. You have to have a good VDP because it's cool and all that we can have a really high conversion rate and you're in the top 10% across the nation. I applaud you for that. But it's no different than being in a physically great location that gets fantastic drive-by traffic and you get a lot of organic people driving in. If they come in and the house is out of order or the cars look like garbage, they're just going to do a U-turn and pull right back out. It's no different in this digital dealership. You can have all the conversion in the world, but when they convert and then they run across inventory that is not really a top 10 red carpet type vehicle, but could be, are they going to go from that next step from a VDP to a lead conversion? That alone right here, using this one example, and there was more, but I'm not going to beat up all your inventory. That alone right there, my friend, is that degree of separation in your volume and gross.
Definitely opportunity to do better with photos on this car. And I'm sure there's half a dozen, if not more, cars like this with our photo process currently, where, you know, if we were on a weekly basis touching all of those H cars, both physically and digitally, that, you know, we could do a better job prioritizing that inventory for sure. You know, and that's what I am really enjoying about talking to you guys. I'm eager to learn some of the more nuanced things about how you guys help dealers across the country get under 30 days.
Sure.
Been around a lot of top 10 stores nationally. I've seen a lot of very successful variable operations. I've never seen a store sell under you know, a 30-day turn consistently without that's selling over 100 used cars and that doesn't have a hard wholesale process.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you now, brother, we'll be able to help you with that.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, some things you could do right now to organically improve that. And one of the things that we do is this right here. It's not just about looking inside our software. At the end of the day, Nathan, we are consultants powered by factual data in a pretty kick-ass software. Okay. And this, let's move past this here for a minute though. But let's say hypothetically, now we've got
deeper on this, Chris, because I'd love to hear your guys' perspective. So let's say that I was doing perfect on my process of touching, you know, the aged inventory, and I saw these photos and I was trying to evaluate if the photos were affecting my ability to sell this car. The next place that I would go would be the CRM to see how many leads that I had on this car. And there are times where I get the managers to specifically work the leads on the aged inventory, you know. And then it becomes a debate on, you know, do we want to take the loss today or do we want to hold out for a better deal tomorrow? And I'm sure that all four of us are going to agree that the loss is always less today than it's going to be down the road.
Yep. Listen, your first loss is always your best loss.
Yep.
Okay, absolutely. So now let's go to that next level. Here's the next level. We mystery shopped you.
Great. How'd it go?
Well, I would love to tell you it went perfect.
Opportunities.
Perfect.
The devil is in the details, Nathan.
So in that mystery shop, the original question in the mystery shop was, does this vehicle have a sunroof? And the responses that we were getting, thank you for taking time to inquire with us about the 19 Group James Cherokee. Would love to discuss this vehicle with you further. So please call me or shoot me an email at your convenience. By the way, what's the best way to communicate? Is it phone, text, email? And then I wanted to follow up on previous conversation about the Cadillac XT5. I understand you might have had some time to think about your options. I'm here to help you make a decision. Are you in the market for a vehicle. Well, hold on. Let's just stop right there. I sent you an inquiry about a vehicle, and you're asking me if I'm in the market for a vehicle.
And I ask a specific question.
I'm seeing if you guys sell ham sandwich.
That one drives me nuts. Always check the lead submission to see if they asked a question and address it first, or they're going to feel like it's an auto template email.
So this is where the old phrase of read the lead.
Yeah, 100%.
Read the lead. I dealt with this just yesterday with one of our high performing dealers that is, on average sells 60-70% of their inventory every 30 days or every 2 weeks. So, I mean, they're selling at 120 to 140% always. Okay. They responded to a customer that was another state away. This dealership's down in El Paso, Texas, and they responded to a lead on a a Land Rover for a guy that's in Mounds, Oklahoma, which is up by Tulsa, and asked him what time this evening could he be in to test drive the vehicle. So I would submit to you this. If you were going to go make any impact today based upon this conversation to improve your volume and your gross, I would strongly, strongly recommend you and your management team dive deeper into the quality of your photo. And I'm not talking about, is it good lighting? Is it this? Is it that? Get the cars clean first. Then I would say go in and look at every lead. And from a manager's view, not when we throw an MLT out there, but any lead that you guys have or any you have in your digital dealership, you need to treat that just like you would the brick and mortar. If I'm a manager in your store, Nathan, I think the expectation from you would be, hey, John Anderson, salesperson, he's got a guest on the showroom floor. You need to peel the Velcro off your rear end and walk out there, shake hands, kiss babies, and let them know who you are, what you do. You're right over there if they need anything while they're here visiting. We need to do the same thing in that digital dealership, because you will find those situations to where customers are asking about very specific pieces on a vehicle, where salesperson missed, where maybe an autoresponder went out and it wasn't the right autoresponder because the lead came in after hours. I would implore you to go in and audit what your autoresponders look like, what the quality of your follow-up is, because you can have all the SRPs in the world and all the VDPs in the world and have extremely high conversion rates. But if you are not vetting where that disconnect is from the time that we get engagement to the appointment set to get the show to sell the car, if you don't close that gap in between that engagement and appointment set, you're never going to get the appointment show to get the opportunity to sell the car. So I would look very close at that gap in between engagement with the customer and appointment set. And if you did that alone, you would see lift.
If we did another one of these, I would want to deep dive on the full, conversion rates on the whole pipeline, right? So I sometimes can be an overly analytical person, and I think that my conversion rates, not just from SRP to VDP, but our set ratio, our show ratio, and our total all source lead closing ratio are all pretty healthy, right? And I would push back, can't let perfect getting in the way of better. There's always room to improve in the CRM. I've never seen a CRM where 100% of the leads are handled perfectly, where there's not, it's just oozing with additional opportunity. I live and breathe what you're recommending. And we do talk about it. It is something that's important, and I'm always striving to do better. But, at your stores that do achieve this golden standard that I'm trying to get to, of the magical 30-day turn, what is their all source, lead closing ratio? What is their set ratio?
John, you want to tackle that one with them? Because I think you had some other questions too and comment.
I guess I'm a little dumbfounded. 1,000 leads a month. Got a smaller inventory. Has aging. I would really like to. Nathan is a dealer that I would want to really want to, and I don't know if Chris has offered, but Nathan, I would love to and it wouldn't cost you anything, but I would love to get your logins and get your data in our software and just and here's the reason why I'm saying this. A lot of the things that you've brought up this morning are a lot of market driven things. SRP to VDP conversion, which I agree with Chris, right? Yes, we want to know that, but ultimately where the rubber meets the road is, are we converting them? Ultimately, are we converting those to deals, right? And are we converting them to deals fast? The guy that trained me he always said, everybody that walks in the store should be on a worksheet. Everybody should get a trade appraisal, right? Now that's the goal, right? Do we do 100% of the time? But that should be the goal, right? So, and I've always said this to dealers, anything that you're doing on your bricks and mortar lot, you should be trying to do on your virtual lot, because your virtual lot, you have more customers visiting that lot, right? So it's just like the pictures that Chris was going over with you on the 300, right? It has nothing to do with the equipment. It's just the quality, right? Because I know what used to keep me up at night. I can tell what we captured, right? Because it's all on paper. I know when we got a lead. I know we had a customer in the store. So everything we capture, I know. What used to keep me up at night is what did we miss? Right? What opportunities did I miss? Right. And so that's the thing we can't track on a virtual lot, right? Because a person can come in there and go, okay, bye, right? They bounce, right? The only way we can track that really is, I used to track it myself, is look at a bounce rate on my website. Is my bounce rate high? And if it's high, why is that? So I think a lot of things that are being looked at are market-driven analytics, and that's good. And I'm not saying anything against that. Hear me out. But I think where the rubber meets the road for us is we dig into shaver, right? And what is happening with my team, with my inventory, in my market, what's going on there? Because I have to have a good understanding there, right? Just like Chris brought up, right? What is the quality of the conversation happening on my leads? Just the one he brought up, right? First thing we did, we just didn't answer the customer's question. And a lot of times customers nowadays, to bring up a stat, and I know we're getting time here, but which I was surprised, but on these stats, but the average customer spends 19 hours online now. That went up. I thought it was going down. And they send leads out to between 12 to 15 dealers when they come into the market, right? So I have to understand that as a dealer, because if they have so many options, and especially where you're located at, Nathan,
they have a lot of options.
Yeah.
To John's point,
how do I set myself apart? There's no doubt in my mind you're doing that when the customer walks in your store. No doubt in my mind that when that customer's in your store, you separate yourself, right? But I got to get them to that point, and I got to get more of them to that point earlier on in the process, because one, I definitely want to have my middle bucket, because of what you've told me about your aging. I want to have my middle bucket inventory. You want that at about 20% with what you're telling, because I got to cut the head off the snake, right?
What I would, if I wanted to get a lift on what bucket the cars are selling immediately overnight, I would drop the front end gross opportunity the first 14 days.
But hang on, I'm gonna stop you right there.
I don't think you need to do that.
You don't have a pricing problem.
No,
I can tell you
that 1,000
right
leads
now.
a month. You're getting 1,000 leads a month. You don't have a pricing problem, brother. Think about
that. Those leads is validating the price that you're going to market with.
Well, I would push back that I also don't think I have a closing problem either. I don't have a set problem, a show problem, or a closing problem. I strive for 30% show ratio, and we hover 22, 25%. I have 40 to 45% show ratio, and my total all source lead closing ratios for the last 90 days has been 12.5%. Best month was 14%. I'm spending more on advertising, so I feel like I'm getting more duplicate leads per vehicle for used in particular. So I just canceled an advertising source. I don't think I need the number of leads that I have to sell the number of cars I have. But 12 to 14% closing ratios is pretty healthy. You
On
know,
your show?
no, from lead submission to closing. So, you know,
Okay,
if we're getting,
and that is, you're right. 12 to 14% is healthy from lead submission to actual close. But where that gap that I'm talking about that you really need to worry about, because you're right, your set, your show, your close, that's good. But what about in between the set and the lead submission? Closing that gap is what I'm talking about. You can close that gap. I'm not worried about the set, the show, the close. I'm worried about capturing more of that VDP conversion rate.
more sets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can close that gap, the rest of it's easy. You see what I'm saying? And
I do.
I think a lot of that, Nathan, is not in your pricing strategy. Do I think you probably have some pricing strategy that's too late in the cycle based upon how your store and your market with your people, how you sell? Of course I do. But that's why John also threw it out there. Hey, let's take and integrate you into our software and let John and myself and Ronaldo get on calls with you for the next 4 weeks and show you where your gaps are. Then you can make that decision at that point in time, how you want to address that and how you want to move forward.
Love it. You know,
And
guys, I'm really grateful for you to take the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me about my store and to analyze, you know, the holes in my game and help my team get better. You know, I love talking used cars. I know you guys do too, but really respect what you guys have achieved at Lotpop, and you know, I'm eager to get better.
Fantastic.
That's all we could ask for.
Yep.
that's all.
That's all we could ask for is somebody that truly wants to get better. And when we put the facts in front of you, now here's where the differentiation is. If we put it in front of you,
You got to do something.
you're going to have to sit there and say, okay, I get it. I'm in an affluent area. We do red carpet treatment and my people are loyal. Those are some things that are hindering you from growth because we get caught in those mindsets of, yeah, but we do pretty good. Yeah, but our closing ratio is this. Yeah, but it's this. Yeah, but it's that. Okay, well, great. What you're doing now has got you to here. You're trying to level up. And the things that we're going to help you with is leveling up. And it's just with, like I said, I hate this 300. Get rid of this damn 300. I'm tired of talking about this 300. No.
I think you'd look real nice in it, Chris.
No, it will not haul my trailers. So, John, you were going to say something. I apologize. I think I might have said
No, you're
something,
fine.
bro.
You're fine. I didn't want to blow off Nathan's question about the closing percentage. And Nathan, the way I would answer that is anything I would tell you would sound extremely low to you, because one of the things that our CEO, and if you know, Jason, we have a different way of looking at closing percentage at Lotpop, because what we found as we've looked at data for over 10 years now is that a high percentage of, so most dealers look at a closing percentage based on the entire amount of leads, you know, and they manage their advertisers that way, right? Because they're saying, okay, we're getting this many leads, we're not getting this many leads, and we're only closing this percentage. And the way we look at it on Lotpop is we extract out the leads that sent you a lead, because here, this is happening a lot right now in the market, right? Customers are in the market, the customer counts are down. They're always down this time of year. But the customers in market are buying, and they're buying fast. They're buying in the first 30 days, right? So let's say you get a car in stock and you get 5 leads on that car and it sells in 21 days. You got 4 other leads on that come in on that car that are in your CRM. Now what, right? And so we look at, as dealers, which I did it, we look at the culmination of all those leads, right? But do I count those 4? Because the car they sent a lead in on has it's sold, right? So what I really need to do is extract those
Exactly.
and look at what's happening with those leads that are on cars and that's where we bridge the gap for you, right? What leads do I have on inventory that's in stock? Because those are my highest level of potential conversion. And then, oh, by the way, how about those 4 leads on that car that sold in 21 days? What am I doing with those? Am I trying? Because you would do that on your bricks and mortar, right? You would fully expect your management team, if a customer walked in your showroom floor and said, hey, I'm here to see that Chrysler 300. And we said, no, we took that to the auction 3 days ago and got rid of it. And your salesperson just turned around and walked away from them. You'd throw a chair through the window, right? Your full expectation was, let's find that customer another car, right? And a lot of times we don't do that online. So that was all I wanted to point out. Is I wanted to address Nathan's question, because anything I told him, our numbers are lower because we calculate it differently, because we're looking at the actual lead that we can make a difference with, right? And that's the whole thing with the CRM too, right? We've always done CRM by task schedules, and our salespeople getting in and working through those task schedules. 75% of those tasks have nothing to do with us selling a car today. We got to focus them on what we got to communicate between management and salespeople. What leads do I have on cars and inventory that we can sell today? And that's where our main focus needs to be. And then secondly, what leads do I have that are still active that we can move to another car and inventory because we have a similar vehicle, right? So that's all I was going to say, Chris. I didn't want to avoid his question.
No, and you're fine. So, and this is where I'm going to go on the record publicly. It's recorded, so anybody can hit the replay on this. Okay, Nathan, what I'm going to tell you now, you're talking about making decisions on cutting your advertising. If you have not went through with that, or even if you have, until you enable us to deep dive this, if you've already put a cancellation in, rescind it. If you're thinking about the cancellation, pause. Okay? Just pause on it. Let us do a deep dive with you. Don't do nothing different except for wash that 300 and reshoot it. But that damn 300 is going to haunt me, Nathan. So don't do nothing right now. Let us deep dive with you. Don't cancel nothing. Don't change nothing. Because what if now we show you how to take what you're doing and improve it and make revelations overnight and make revelations the next 30 and the next 60 and the next 90 days? You may be in the position to where you're going, okay, I need to add to, or I don't need nothing.
I mean, that's why I wanted to connect with you guys. And John, what you just brought up was an excellent point. We're definitely doing nothing about that. We're not talking about that. And I'd be curious for dealers across the country how they're attacking that. If I guarantee you, if my salespeople or my sales manager see a lead submission, a car that's sold, they're saying the car sold, rather than, hey, we have a handful of comparable SUVs. Would you want to check something else out? I love 100%. That. Excited about that. That's
so we'll dive deep into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matter of fact, we'll dive deep in that. We'll share with you and show you, because we have some dealer partners that have no problems with us sharing best practices and even showing their data to be able to help you articulate on how to do a better job with this and put some good processes in place at your store. We are just a few minutes before you got to run. We've taken this call a little bit over. First and foremost, and then Ronaldo, John are going to probably, and more than likely, because they're chomping at the bit to do it right now, I know they are. But on behalf of Lotpop, on behalf of our podcast, Lot Talk, Nathan, we applaud you, we commend you, and more importantly, we are forever grateful for you taking the time to get on with us, to be vulnerable, to expose yourself to the world of exactly where you're at. If the listeners and the viewers, if you learned anything from this, be vulnerable, expose yourself, get with trusted advisors to help grow your business, because that's what Nathan is leading the way doing here. And we applaud you for that, my friend. Ronaldo, any final thoughts?
I was just going to reassure Nathan that, once we got your information, there's no doubt in my mind that we are going to give you an executable plan to get you to the point where you're stocking what you're selling and selling what you're stocking overnight. I'm excited about having an opportunity to kind of dig into the data. But I know that we'll get you lined out because you're not very far away. We just need to get all the numbers so that we can work the facts and put that executable plan in front of you. And I'd be really, really excited to see what you do with it.
Chris, I expected you to be harder on me, man.
I didn't have the heart to do it, brother. John Anderson, any closing thoughts for Nathan before we cut him loose?
Nathan, I just appreciate you so much, brother. Your willingness to come on and trust me, these next 3 weeks when we have your data, it'll probably get pretty rough because part of it we don't have it in front of us. But that's why in the back channel I was saying with everything. Listen, man, you got to hear my heart here, brother. As a previous GM, I'm just been squirming in the chair the whole time because when you've been talking about all these things you've implemented, which are solid processes, I'm thinking, what is going on, man? There's just something not right here, and that's why I'm so eager to get the data so that we can dig into it and find out where the gaps are at for you and really help you with this. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, especially. Man, Chris said we went over a little bit. No, we went over a lot of bit. So I appreciate you hanging in there and sharing and working with us on this. This has been a great call. Thank you.
I had a lot of fun, and thanks you guys for taking the time to talk to me about my store. Definitely learned a couple of things on this call, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Fantastic, Nathan. Thank you so much. Matter of fact, we're just going to wrap this with Nathan on the call. So that being said, listeners, viewers, hit the replay button, subscribe, share this. We've had a fantastic episode here. This is Lot Talk. It is powered by Lotpop. You need to catch us at the same bat time, same bat channel. And if you want to get vulnerable, just like Nathan did, drop us a line. We are happy to have you on. I'm Chris Keene on behalf of my co-host with us, Mr. John Anderson, Mr. Ronaldo Leonard, and on behalf of Lotpop. We thank you, and we do nothing but wish you the most success. Bye, guys.
Much success.